All right, we are back. Welcome to round 3 of the Legacy Tour Huntsville. I'm Zachary Cook, your host, joined by Lane Fox, my co-host.
Oh.
We're going to be watching Chris Kucera on Ad Nauseum Tendrils, the Storm variant, playing against Joshua Griffith on Burn. Lane, your thoughts on the matchup?
Oh, wow. I think it's a race. And I don't know. I mean, I think the burn deck. I like where the burn deck is on this, especially if you can get to turn 2 and land something like an idol into the Great Revel or something like that. Then it's pretty scary for the Storm player. But Storm's been known to go off pretty quickly. So if they get that turn 1 or turn 2 Storm, I don't think Burn is that quick. So we'll see.
Now, historically, this matchup has favored Storm tremendously.
I would think so.
Since Theros, or I guess it was the third block, Journey into Nyx was the third set.
Yeah.
Since Idol of the Revel, Great Revel got printed, the matchup has become much more even.
Yeah.
Although I would still argue that Storm is favored, probably, especially in the post-board games.
Yeah, I think Storm is a turn 1, turn 2 deck. Burn is like a turn 3 deck. Sometimes turn 4.
Burn is a turn 3 deck. Like in the most ideal scenarios. Like that's the best it can do. Storm, if you're completely unmolested, like no hand disruption, no counter spells, I would say Storm can very consistently be a turn 2 deck.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have any interaction at all, it's not hard for them to cobble together a turn 2 kill. And if you look at Josh's hand here, he's got some Swift Spears, which are not great in this scenario,
Bolt,
and a couple 3-mana damper. Yeah, 3 bolt type effects, which he actually has no.
I think I saw Chain Lightning in there too.
Yeah, his best hope is to next turn rip a mountain, play a Swift Spear and a 3 damage spell, and hope that gets Chris low enough that he just dies on turn 3. Because otherwise
he's gonna lose.
He's sort of at the mercy of Chris's hand.
Yeah, I still want to cheer for Burn though.
You monster.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the losing side of Burn, enough. I should hate it, but I'm an underdog kind of guy. So
no, I feel the same way. I love that Burn exists because it really makes some decks play fairly. Like the ones that are super greedy with their mana base. Price of Progress just absolutely punishes them.
Yeah.
Decks that want to play like a super all-out, ultra-slow, grind fest type, decks like Jund or Shardless Sultai or Lands, they just get absolutely punished by a deck that can just sling three damage, 1-mana spells off of basic mountains. Like, those decks are just so heavily handicapped or crippled versus Burn. And then there's, the complete opposite side where decks like Storm and to some extent some of the other combo decks like, I don't know, maybe Infect or High Tide could really care less about Burn. Like a deck like Burn is almost irrelevant to them.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to see what's in Chris's hand. I saw the Infernal Tube.
Yeah, once again we have an excessive amount of glare on the cards in hand. I see
a Lotus Petal. I saw a
Lion's Eye Diamond. There's 2 Lotus Petals and a Lion's Eye Diamond, which is all he would need to fire off an Infernal Tutor, and if he has a single ritual effect, either Dark Ritual or Cabal Ritual, he can get an Ad Nauseum and cast it, which a turn 2 Ad Nauseum is well, against Burn, it's actually one of the worst ways to kill, but
yeah.
But if it leads to the rest of the combo kill, he can just do that.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking a little bit too with Burn. I mean, because we already see him down a couple points on life too, just off of Gitaxian probes and things like that as well. I mean, they're slowly, they're spending their life as a resource to put the combo together as well.
This looks like Chris fetched a Tropical Island. I wonder if he's. I don't think Storm plays any main deck green spells. I wonder why I wouldn't go for Underground Sea or Volcanic Island. Unless maybe he doesn't need it, and he's just bluffing like he might have green spells of some sort, or he's trying to throw Josh off the scent. Maybe saying, I'm not, don't think I'm on Storm. That's what, so far he hasn't given him reason to think he's on anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine the tropicals there mostly for sideboard, right?
Yeah, it's exclusively for sideboard. And once you see Lotus Petal, you know what they're playing. I don't see why he fetched that one other than maybe he doesn't care and anything would do. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so here he's going to have 3 mana floating. Yep. So the way Storm works, for anybody who might not have seen this before, he casts a multitude of spells in one turn. In this case, it was a pair of Lotus Petals, a Lion's Eye Diamond, and an Infernal Tutor. And then before passing priority and before the Infernal Tutor resolves, you use your Lion's Eye Diamond, which requires you to discard your hand, which then is actually important to the deck because Infernal Tutor, if you have no hand, becomes just Demonic Tutor. You can go find any card in your deck and put it into your hand, and in this case, Chris is getting Ad Nauseam, sort of the signature spell of Ad Nauseam Tendrils. And he's casting it now. He has 3 mana floating, plus 2 more from the Lotus Petals. Means he now can cast Ad Nauseam. Now he has no mana floating, which means in order to continue comboing off right now, he's going to have to find another 0 mana mana source, because he did play a land, right? Yeah, this is only the second turn of the game.
It shouldn't be too hard, though.
Well, he has to hit a Lotus Petal, of which he has already played 2. So no, there's the signature spell, Tendrils of Agony.
Oh man!
So he's got the rituals, and he has barely any life left.
Oh, I know. That's what I was like looking at
Oh,
here.
there's a Lotus Petal though.
Okay.
I think
I was about to say. Now, how much life has he lost there?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's lost 13.
Yeah.
So he's at 2.
2. Yeah, that was close.
Now, Chris knew that he couldn't stop there because he's dead just to the Goblin Guide. So when you get to that point, you just have to cross your fingers and hope. But the Lotus Petal gives him the 1 free mana source to start it. He now has 3 black and presumably a near lethal storm count. The Cabal Ritual puts him up to 6 mana, and he can play a Duress here if he needs to build storm count. Apparently he does not. Tendrils of Agony, with a storm count of 10 or greater, is going to deal 20 damage to Josh, and that's a turn 2 kill.
Yeah, that was close though.
Now we're going to take a second to talk about one of our featured alterists here with the Huntsville Legacy Tour, Klarbar Studios. Eric Klar is an altarist who does just fantastic work, altering primarily for Legacy and EDH or Commander, decks.
Yeah.
I've had some work done by him. I have my Force of Wills and my Brainstorms altered, and he just did a fantastic job. And you can see some of his featured artwork here. He's just exceptional.
Yeah, I always like looking at the Wasteland.
Yeah, that Wasteland is a very unique to Eric's style. He does sort of the puzzle piece. He also has another signature alteration style, which is it's sort of a blueprint where it looks kind of like building plans. But anyway, if you're interested, check him out on Facebook at Klarbar Studios or at klarbarstudios.com. Anyway, on to the sideboards. Well, I'll let you start, Lane. What do you think? You've got Josh's sideboard. What do you think?
Wow.
What do you think he's going to bring in here, or does he have anything to bring in here?
Mind Break Trap?
A pair of Mind Break, yeah. So that can only mean one thing. He wants to try and fight Storm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has some Mind Break Traps in his deck, and he also, I don't know what else would really come in. Pithing Needle, maybe. I mean, if you wanted to name some of the, but I mean, what would you name? There's so many mana rocks.
Well, and Pithing Needle can't stop mana abilities, so
that's true. So I feel like you're on Mind Break Trap or bust. I think.
Yeah, you could make an argument for the Pyroblasts since they stop the cantrips, which Chris is going to use those to try and set up his hand.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I don't think you want anything else. And I mean, it depends what he has main deck that he needs to bring out. Like sometimes you see cards like Searing Blaze, although Josh doesn't have those. So really, the only thing here I think is he wants to maybe bring out the 2 Price of Progress, or actually two Grim Lavamancers is probably the worst cards in his deck because they're so slow. And bring in the Mind Break Traps in their place, and that's about it. On Chris's side, he's got 2 Chain of Vapor, which is decent. It gets rid of Eidolon of the Great Revel so that you can go off. Pair of Disfigures serves essentially the same function. And he may have some number of Abrupt Decays if he suspects his opponent has something like, I don't know, maybe I can't imagine Burn ever running Chalice of the Void. So he wouldn't need it for that, but maybe there's something some sort of Trinisphere type of effect or something that he suspects might come in. Although I think, given that he's up a game, he would probably leave the Abrupt Decays in the sideboard and only bring them in if he sees it in game 2, something that he needs them for. Most likely it'll just be the Disfigures and the Chain of Vapors.
Yeah, you don't want to muck up your combo too much. I mean, what do you even hardly take out?
Gitaxian Probe, probably.
The Probe, yeah.
The card that costs you life. It's about the only thing you want to get rid of. Although it does build Storm Count for free, so that's very relevant. Also, since it's Divining Top, it's possible you want to take that out as well, because it's just really slow against a deck that goldfishes by turn 4 pretty well. Like, you just don't. It's not like you're playing against Miracles where you can dirtle around with the top for a while.
That's a good point. So those are both good calls, I think.
I guess there's a little bit to consider if you want to keep in your Empty the Warrens, because that Empty the Warrens is usually what you're bringing in when you fear that they might have a way to deal with the Tendrils of Agony. Because I think you'd prefer to go to a Tendrils kill with Ant more often. I've spoken a lot with some pretty prominent Storm players, and they have different theories on how the deck should operate, how you should play it, whether you should go for definitive kills, like where you have all the pieces and it's a kill before you even start, versus what they usually term the probabilistic kill, which is like you have some of the pieces and you can be 90% sure that if you cast Ad Nauseam, you'll find the rest of the combo and such, in so many life points and so many cards and that kind of thing. And anyway, the Empty the Warrens, I feel like that's more on the probabilistic kill side, and that tends to be not what the Ad Nauseam players or the Ant Storm players go for. A lot of them prefer the Past in Flames definitive kills.
Yeah, that's probably a good observation. It's certainly the thinking man's deck.
Oh, I mean, there are harder decks to play, probably, but I think of the definite tier 1 powerhouse decks, there's nothing harder than Storm.
I think it's a difficult. I don't know. I feel like Elves is a very difficult deck to run as well. There's just so many moving pieces. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that there aren't any other complicated decks. Elves is definitely a very thought-provoking, and you have to plan out your sequences ahead of time.
Yeah.
I would argue that of the very difficult decks to play, Storm is probably more tier 1 than Elves. Elves definitely has some really bad matchups.
That's true.
And Storm, I think the only really bad matchup is probably Mud. Mud is an abysmal matchup from what I've heard, because they have main deck Trinisphere and Chalice of the Void, and then can side into the taxation effects, whatever they're called. Thorn of Amethyst and Sphere of Resistance. Like, they just have somewhere between 8 and 16 really, really good hate cards against Storm. Cards that you basically can't win as long as they're on the table. And that's just, like, outside of a turn 1 or turn 2 kill, Storm has just a terrible time beating mud strategies.
Yeah, and they don't really have a way to really interact with you very much.
No, game 1, they have almost nothing. In game 2, you're banking on things like Hurkyl's Recall and Abrupt Decay to try and get you out of a pickle. So against a deck that tries to mana screw you at every corner.
It looks here, the game looks very similar to what we saw last turn. Look, it's even the Tropical Island.
Now, did Chris fetch for that, or did he just happen to naturally draw it this time around?
I believe he fetched for it. I think he fetched for it off of a Polluted Delta that was flipped by the Goblin Guide.
Oh, well, maybe he... this time I would believe he actually has a reason for it. He might actually have Abrupt Decays in the deck. But it's funny to fetch for it if you don't already have the Decay in hand, or if it's your only fetch land, but because you open yourself up to price of progress when you're playing a deck that does, in fact, run basics. Like, he could just find an island in this case. Looks like he's going to send it back. I see at least one Cabal Ritual and maybe a Dark Ritual, so he's got plenty of mana. I wonder if he has the payoff cards that go with it. Here we've got a Scalding Tarn. So he's got at least one more fetch land that can find him.
Maybe he didn't fetch it. Maybe he just played out that Tropical Island. I see the Polluted Delta in his hand. I thought he fetched for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he just played it.
Well, that makes more sense then. And here's a lava spike from Joshua, taking Chris all the way down to 13. So, although Josh missed a land drop there, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he could still get a turn 3 kill if his draw step's a mountain and his hand contains a pair of bolts and a fire blast. I think nope, that would only be 12 damage. He's still going to be short. It does cut off an ad nauseum kill though, because once you get Storm low enough on life, they can't reasonably cast ad nauseum. It's just too dangerous.
Another land. Not this time.
It's an Empty the Warrens though, which I guess is sort of a payoff card, right?
Yeah. It's so hard to mulligan with burn though, because you got to keep all this gas.
Yeah, every card matters. So Chris falls to 8 though. He's certainly within dying range in the next turn. Although with that many cantrips in hand, or sorry, not cantrips, rituals in hand, it looked like he had at least one dark ritual and a cabal ritual. And we know he's got the Empty the Warrens on top of his library. He can definitely make a pile of goblins next turn. Now, that may not be fast enough though, because at only 8 life, if Josh finds another mountain, he could just burn him out in one turn, especially if he's got a fire blast.
Yeah, I think it's very painful. I mean, definitely Burn wants to be able to play multiple spells on a turn, and Josh has had it's been an uphill battle, I think, this entire time for him.
Well, and keeping a 1-land hand that didn't find a second is really problematic. I wonder if he's got anything in hand that is worth that risky keep. Like if he has an Eidolon of the Great Revel, that would be justifiable to keep a 1-land hand, because you find that second land and you pretty much got Storm right where you want them. See, is that a Lotus Petal?
I see a Lotus Petal up front.
In Chris's hand. And some number of rituals. Yeah, I think if he wants, he can definitely make a pile of goblins this turn. And I mean, barring anything else to do, that's probably the best he can hope for right now, is make a pile of goblins and cross his fingers that Josh doesn't draw a second land.
Yeah. He has to suspect he's got some number of burn spells in his hand. But keeping the Goblin Guide at bay is important.
Yeah, that's true. If nothing else, it keeps the Goblin Guide from attacking and gives you maybe a few more turns to cobble together the rest of the kill.
Because he's not going to be able to burn him out. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said before, if he has like a pair of lightning bolts and a fire blast, all he needs is a mountain.
That's a good point.
Burn can kill you from a very high life total. So there's a dark ritual. And he played a Lion's Eye Diamond, although I think that was just to build storm count here. Ideally, you would like to cast the minimum number of spells to produce a kill, but reserve some. You don't want to overdo it, because say he draws an Infernal Tutor or Tendrils of Agony. He'd like to have some spells that he can cast to build a storm count in subsequent turns. Although it looks like Chris might just be going for the full Monty here. There's the Disfigure, again probably just to build storm count before the Empty the Warrens. So that should be for 12, I think. There were 6 spells. 3 rituals, Disfigure, Lotus Petal. Oh, maybe it's for 14. There were 7 spells this turn. Oh, that's as good as you can hope for.
Let's see if Josh rips the land and just...
If he does, I think he's got a legitimate chance at still pulling this game out, even with 14 goblins on the opposing side. Looks like he did not find a land, though, so I don't know what outs he might have. There are no 4 damage spells for 1 mana.
I think you just throw burn and hope to draw a land on the next turn.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see. Maybe Price of Progress only deal 3 damage basically, because Chris will fetch in response and probably just find a basic island. So 1 from that and 2 from the Progress would only be 3 damage. Yeah, it's almost certainly Fire Blast or bust. I can't think of anything else that's gonna deal enough damage here. There's a Chain Lightning. That'll take Chris to 5. again, if he's still alive if he finds a mountain and has a fire blast, I think.
Yeah, that's where I'm. What else do you do there?
So some number looks like I can't read those dice. At least 10 of the goblins should be attacking. Looks like 12 of them did. Josh falls to 7. He's leaving 2 on defense because it protects you from a goblin guide. Goblin guide into lightning bolt would do it.
There's a land.
Well,
I haven't got a chance to see his hand, so even just 2 burn spells.
Yeah, even a pair of lightning bolts.
He's gonna show it.
So he's got 2 Eidolons, a
Oh my
Pithing Needle,
goodness.
Sulfuric Vertex, and a lightning bolt. Yeah, he's 1 burn spell or a fire blast from getting him. But yep, that does it. Christopher Kucera gets this game 2-0, and Storm pretty handily takes down Burn, which is sort of the norm. I think that's how this matchup plays up most of the time, but not the way Lane wanted it to.
Well, I saw Josh brought in the Pithing Needle. Maybe he thought, like I did, that he would be able to affect some of the.
You can't name. Well, you can name the cards, but they don't actually stop the mana abilities. But
yeah, so I don't think like I do.
Either way, that is the end of round 3. Christopher Kucera is still undefeated at this point, so he has a real good shot at making the top 8, even with intentional draws. So, anyway, stick around. We'll be back for round 4 in just a minute.